At our first stop, we're going to meet two men. The first is Mr. Paul Moratz, who was born in Germany in 1866 and came to Bloomington at the tender age of 2. He became a prolific architect and designed a wide variety of buildings. One such building was a 5,000-seat Coliseum, which was constructed in 1892. This building is actually the namesake of the current Coliseum, which was built in 2006 and is across the street from the site of the original building. Perhaps Moratz's most notable contributions, though, were the 27 Carnegie libraries that he designed, many of which are still in use in towns around here, such as in El Paso and Fairbury, Illinois. Carnegie libraries were built across the nation and funded with money donated from the Scottish-American businessman and philanthropist Andrew Carnegie. Moratz also designed and patented a kind of ready-to-use flooring strip that greatly helped in the area of construction. He inherited the mill that built this flooring from his father. The second man we'll meet at our site today is Mr. Samuel White, who was born in Indiana in 1847. He moved to Bloomington in 1870. Mr. White had really no intention of remaining here permanently, but he found Bloomington to be, quote, good for business. He became a prominent contractor and builder, erecting schools, homes, and barns throughout the county. In 1879, he turned his professional attention to the manufacture of house furnishings and fixtures when he purchased an old mill on Douglas Street in downtown Bloomington. White also worked as his own traveling salesman for the company. Although his business was destroyed twice by fire, both in 1884 and 1887, he was a very determined man and rebuilt the business each time. Mr. White was also involved in the insurance business and settled loss claims for various insurance companies. In fact, in 1906, he spent 6 months in San Francisco, California, settling loss claims after the great earthquake there. Now we're going to go hear from these two men about their roles in the development of one of Bloomington's finest neighborhoods, White Place.
Mr. White! Mr. White! Ah! Damn and blast!
Mr. Moratz, it's good of you to come.
Yes! Unfortunately, and in spite of my best calculations, it appears I have stepped squarely into a pile of cow manure.
So it seems. May I inquire as to how you traveled here?
I took the Walnut streetcar, stepping off where it meets the Clinton line.
That was your mistake.
Indeed. I did not anticipate having to walk this extra distance through a pasture.
I'd suggest riding next time. You do keep horses, I presume.
Naturally.
Good. I find horses ever so much more reliable. You'll find mine tied to that tree beyond.
And perhaps you'll permit me to ride with you. How much further north is it to the proposed site?
No further at all. This is it.
This? Here?
Precisely.
But this is... Well, it is less than ideal, isn't it? The ground is soft, and frankly, Mr. White, the area is inhospitable.
Then we shall make it hospitable. Do you suppose the stately neighborhoods of St. Louis were ideal at the time they broke ground? I doubt it. It's our job, Mr. Moratz, to see what others cannot. It's our job to envision possibilities, not obstacles. Do you agree?
I do, and still.
I understand. But I'm putting a great deal of faith in you, sir. We're not that different, you and I. We both started with little. Through hard work and determination, we prospered. We saw the future, the potential it held, and we seized it. I've heard of your architectural studies at the Illinois Industrial School in Urbana, how you bartered your services in exchange for, what was it?
A haircut. Haircuts for the entire school year, to be more precise.
And the barber, what exactly did he get in return?
Well, if you wish to know, the door to his shop was coming off its hinges. A carpenter had offered to rehang it plumb, but would perform the service for no less than $25. I set to work on it, and in less than an hour I had completed the work, estimating my labor and materials at a fraction of the cost.
Remarkable.
I also bartered with the tailor, receiving free cleaning, pressing, and clothing repairs.
Boasting.
Making me the foxiest student enrolled.
The foxiest student enrolled?
Their words, not mine.
Of course.
But I rather like the description.
Tell me what you see.
Up-to-date homes.
I'm not sure I know what you mean by that.
Fine modern homes built using standardized plans and materials mass-produced at my mill.
Queen Anne style?
Or colonial. It depends on what the client wants and what he can afford. I am of the opinion, Mr. White, that everyone is deserving of a fine home. I shall design to the client's specifications.
I don't disagree with you, but let me be clear. This development will not be like so many of the neighborhoods we're accustomed to seeing. It will be a treasure, Mr. Moratz, the envy of all, and in order for that to happen, there must be provisos.
Provisos?
Yes. Namely, that those purchasing lots erect nothing less than a 2-story house. It need not be Queen Anne or colonial, but it must possess an elegance. And I will not allow for any prefabricated homes or old homes being moved onto the ground.
I understand, sir. It is my hope that when future generations look upon my designs, one might be heard to say, "What a beautiful home. I wonder who built it."
Good. Very good. You're a man after my own heart. What else do you see?
Perhaps it would be best, sir, if you were to tell me just what it is you see.
I thought you'd never ask. To begin, a grand boulevard, 100 feet wide and tree-lined. It should mirror in appearance the finest avenues of Paris.
Go on.
At the center, a horse watering fountain. And on the north end, a lagoon with an adjacent park, lovely promenades winding their way throughout.
A lagoon?
Yes.
And just how will we create that?
I don't know.
I see.
Yet, along both sides of the boulevard, extending 2 blocks, the most magnificent homes Bloomington has seen. Queen Anne in style, though not necessarily limited to that. I fancy the Queen Anne architecture, but I have an aversion to sameness. Each home ought to be unique in its design, avoiding the cookie-cutter look on display in so many other areas of the city.
I can see why the asymmetrical facade of the Queen Anne appeals to your sensibilities.
That, among some of its other features, yes. The wide wraparound porch will attract buyers like never before.
Well, why is that? There is nothing unusual about a sizable porch. In fact, it may be found on many of the homes here in Bloomington.
Indeed it may, but think for a moment. Envision not the porch itself, but the view that the porches in our neighborhood will afford. Yes. Imagine a family seated on the porch on a lovely summer afternoon, sipping tea or lemonade. That's certainly a pleasant enough experience, regardless of where the house is situated. But think how much more inclined one might be to retire to the comfort of the porch if he knew that the view awaiting him was not going to be constantly spoiled by coal and delivery wagons rumbling down the boulevard, but instead filled with children laughing and playing in the grassy
It's a pleasant enough picture, Mr. White, but where will all those deliveries be made?
In the alleyways behind. And there will be no need for coal deliveries.
I don't understand.
Steam heat, Mr. Moratz. All the homes will be heated by steam, each and every one.
This is all very ambitious.
I make no small plans.
All right. Where will the central heating plant be located?
On the north end, possibly. That can be determined later.
Well, I can think of only one thing you've left out.
What's that?
A neighborhood this grand deserves a grand entrance.
Of course! A gate!
Bearing your name.
White's place.
Naturally. I've seen the drawings for Link's Gate in St. Louis, and I think it should serve as good a model as any. I may render it in rock-faced rather than ashlar-faced stone, and taper the wings, but I like his design very much.
I too have seen Link's Gate, an excellent choice.
Well, Mr. White.
Sam.
Well, Sam, I'm due back at my mill shortly. If it's not too much trouble, might I share your horse back to the walnut line?
Of course.
Many thanks. When shall we begin?
Mr. Moratz.
Paul.
We've already begun.
It doesn't appear that White and Moratz collaborated on any other projects other than White Place. No lagoon or park was ever built. The boulevard is far from 100 feet wide. And following the death in 1917 of Mr. White, it is said that a resident climbed the gate and removed the apostrophe and S from the gate's manteltop, claiming that this way the developer could no longer claim possession of the street. Even so, the success of White and Moratz's collaboration is evidenced by the district being added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1988. After White Place, Moratz continued his work as an architect throughout the region before turning his attention to his planing mill business until his death in 1939.